Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Get Digital, Upping Your E-Commerce Game. Before we begin, I would like to thank BDC, Nutrien, Flex and Gate, Magna, and Numalwa for sponsoring the CAMSI Business Intelligence webinar series. These webinars are focused on supplier development, and by sponsoring, CAMSI can share relevant knowledge within our network. Today we'll be hearing from our presenters Hussein Qureshi and Brooke Garden. During our Q&A segment, we'll be joined by Malika Kazim. So let me give you a little more insight on our speakers. Hussein Qureshi is the president at Mobile Live. As president of Mobile Live, Hussein is responsible for managing day-to-day operations and strategic direction of the company. He focuses on strategic and sustainable growth with an emphasis on managing key customer relationships and supervising digital transformation projects. Our next speaker, Brooke Garden, is the Senior Advisor for Women Entrepreneurs at BDC, where she connects female entrepreneurs with people and programs to grow and scale their business. An entrepreneur herself, Brooke is the founder of a social enterprise to support women in their personal and professional growth from a foundation of health. She's also a weightlifting enthusiast and passionate volunteer at the Suroptimist International Live Your Dream Award and Dream It, Be It programs, supporting education and career mentorship for women and girls. We also will be joined by Malika during our Q&A segment. Malika Kazim is the Senior Business Advisor at BDC. She delivers integrated marketing solutions to small and medium-sized businesses with a commitment to measurable and meaningful results. Malika has over 10 years of experience in sectors such as consumer packaged goods, pharmaceutical, retail, financial services, and technology. She specializes in marketing strategy, communications, analytics, and digital and social media. A seasoned professional with a passion for connecting brands to their consumers, she has built successful marketing campaigns for top Canadian and global brands such as TELUS, Rogers, and LG Canada, to name a few. Malika also teaches integrated marketing communications at the Algoma University. Before handing the mic over to our presenters, I would like to point out that we have all participants muted. However, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat. We will be selecting several to answer at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded to be used as a resource afterwards. I will now hand the mic over to Hussein. Hussein?
Thank you so much. I'll just take the control of the slides. I have it. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to have you all. And I'm so thankful to CAMSI for providing Brooke and myself this opportunity to talk about a topic that has been the center of attention, especially during the last 1 year. I want you to close your eyes and go back in time, not too long ago, but only 10 years. Buying a smartphone was the hottest trend, but online shopping wasn't. Remember, it felt so comfortable talking to a person during a transaction, or that feel of touch through the process of buying. Could you have imagined that Amazon revenue would increase 10 times in the next 10 years? From 34 billion in 2010 to 386 billion in 2020? Stay there in time and tell me how many of you had imagined a day in life where everything will be sold online on a digital channel, including web, mobile, chat, and not just that, but all the latest screenless interfaces like Alexa, Siri, and Google. Your virtual shopping assistants powered by AI technologies will be facilitating your selections, and the order fulfillment being taken care of by bots. These hypersensitive bots going from aisle to aisle, picking, packaging, and shipping your purchases, while your business was being managed by artificial intelligence based on trends and available inventory. New inventory will be ordered automatically and stocked in your warehouses while you were enjoying your life, sitting on a beach and sipping on your favorite drink. It's all happening today, and it's happening 24/7, 365 days a year. Businesses are continuously open and selling not just locally, but internationally. When buyers in Canada go to sleep, someone starts purchasing in China, Japan, or Singapore. It's not a distant dream anymore. A customer journey that used to be linear in nature has grown to be very complex and hops between various channels, platforms, and technologies. In the previous world order, it used to be go to a shop, select your product, and walk out, or call a call center, discuss your options, agree on a price, and your purchase was done. Whereas today, you see an ad on a social media, search on browser, go to social media for reviews, chat with a friend to get opinion, view videos on YouTube to check the experience, place the order online, track the shipment through postal service app, watch how to use videos on YouTube, write your review on social media, follow on social media for updates. Using the technological enhancements of today, the user experience has significantly improved, and it facilitates the decision-making of the users. Using AR, VR, you can visualize a product within your home setting. AI is helping the customer selection process by facilitating matching product through suggestions, thus not only improving online buying experience, rather it's augmenting the in-store experience. Gamification is another aspect that is being added to e-commerce, which is expected to significantly improve customer engagement and loyalty. Technology is defining new ways of humans to interact with the brands. All of this has certainly made us realize the need of digital channels. Brooke, this segment has grown suddenly and massively. Could you help us understand the magnitude of this and the impact it is bringing to the overall businesses?
Absolutely, Hussein. At BDC, we have more than 60,000 entrepreneurs as clients across Canada, and we know that it's never been more difficult to be a business owner than it is nowadays. Since the beginning of the crisis, our research team at BDC has been surveying business owners every 2 weeks. We ask them about the impact of COVID-19 on their business. And as you can see, the majority of businesses have been affected by the COVID situation. Many had to suspend their activities, at least in part, and the negative activity on businesses we're seeing is slightly declining. While 84% of businesses told us last year in June they've been negatively affected by the situation, that percentage was down from 90% in March. And in February 2021, it was down again to 73%. And we believe that this reflects the fact that the arrival of the vaccines means that our prospects are better. But we still have a long road ahead. At the end of last year, we also released a study looking at how Canadian entrepreneurs are preparing for the future. And I wanted to start by taking a moment to review some of the trends that we're seeing based on Canadian entrepreneurs' priorities. Now, the very first one is taking advantage of technology. And of course, that's the conversation we're having today. And so we're very pleased to see this. Many entrepreneurs are determined to modernize their businesses and make them more productive by investing in technology. And this is also excellent news for Canadian tech companies. Now, also in a previous study, we saw that the more you invest in digital technologies, the more you see the benefits. So as an example, businesses that were investing up to $10,000 in digital technologies saw a 5% revenue growth. For those that were between 50,000 and 75,000 invested, they saw more than 9% growth. And then we saw the revenue increase close to 16% for businesses that invested between $500,000 and $1 million. Now, the second thing that I wanted to talk about is focusing on telework, because this is another priority that we're hearing from SMEs. Canadian entrepreneurs want to continue to integrate telework into their business practices, and we're actually seeing an increase from 50% before the crisis to now 60% of small and medium-sized enterprises, which we call SMEs, they're relying on telework post-crisis. Now, what's really helpful is to make sure that your employees working from home, they have to have the right tools, especially if you're thinking of investing in a digital strategy. So many of you are already doing this, but I wanted to give just a few tips for those who are maybe not fully there yet. So investing in equipment and infrastructure, that allows your team to work successfully from home. There are low and free cost tools, so you really don't have to spend a fortune to do this. For example, there's Google Hangouts, there's Skype. We're using Zoom right now for this video conference. There's also Slack and Microsoft Teams for collaboration, and there's also Trello and Basecamp as examples for project management. The most important things to remember are that you want to insist that everyone in the company is using the same applications. Otherwise, you really don't get the efficiencies. And also choose software tools that are easy to install. Now, if the cost of supplying employees with the necessary equipment is a concern, maybe consider shifting your mindset to looking at it as an investment. According to a recent report by globalworkplaceanalytics.com, a typical employer can save an average of $11,000 per half-time telecommuter per year. That's pretty significant. Now, increasing online sales, this is the last priority that I want to talk about today. Companies that were already selling online are less affected by the lockdown. So it's no surprise that 3/4 of businesses that want to increase their online sales already have an online presence. Now, here's a couple steps that I want to share with you if you're not online, especially in the current context, because I'm going to say it out loud, it means you actually don't exist, especially if you're in a B2C context. So these are some of the things to consider. Obviously, take a look at your website, see if there's any new features that you can add. Be more active on social media, launch a targeted promotional campaign, increase your online advertising, and interact faster with online users and customers. But there's much more to getting online than just building a website and hoping people find it. And that's whether you have e-commerce or not. Now, Hussein, you showed us how your website is just one small piece of a much bigger puzzle and a much longer journey to help customers find, evaluate, buy from you, and then stay connected with you all online. So for a fully functioning online business, consumers need to have a smooth experience at each of those touch points. Your website, your social media, mobile applications. And the trick to success is to use these tools in the right way at the right time. Now, based on the data, I want to take just a moment to explain why going digital matters to your business right now. So this is ultimately the question why we're here. Why go online? And what are you going to do with it while you're there? Now, the obvious scenario is if you don't have a website or a social media presence, then new customers won't know that you exist and they won't be able to purchase from you. And some studies have actually shown that if a customer searches and doesn't find for anything online, it can actually negatively impact the brand of the company and in turn create a barrier to sales. So this is even if the product or service that you offer is exactly what they were looking for. So not surprising, 80% of companies that are very active online also saw their sales increase. So I'm going to go so far as to say a website and being online, it's no longer a nice to have, it's actually a must to have. And one of the reasons for that is that 80% of Canadians who bought online for the first time during the pandemic have said that they will continue to shop online. And I will admit, I am one of those people. So e-commerce is definitely here to stay. Today, lockdown measures have forced customers to completely rethink their traditional habits and try new things, including buying online. And over the past year, we have seen clients in interior design, in manufacturing, retail, professional services all grow their sales because they jumped on the wave and decided to approach their clients online. Now, this client changing behavior is forcing organizations to challenge the status quo and defy the traditional belief that some things can't be bought online. And Hussein, you gave a great example of this at the very beginning, imagining where everything was touch. And even at BDC, one of the things we most pride ourselves on is our proximity to clients physically. We are in the communities where our clients live, work, and play. We have over 118 business centers across Canada, and some in very rural areas, because we want to be physically where our clients are. And we thought that was really the only way that we could help them. And so we had to choose between not helping our clients at all or trying to help them virtually. And the surprise on all of us was that not only were we able to do it, which was fabulous, but our clients actually found it more effective. And from our team's perspective, they were also able to be more productive because they weren't stuck in traffic. They weren't wasting time, I'll say, traveling to go to a meeting. And I can think of an abundance of client stories where they've shifted online as well, and the results have been phenomenal. So at this point, Hussein, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Brooke. I'll just wait for the control to come to me. Brooke, you have so rightly suggested that it's all basically digital sales, online sales. And I would like to summarize that there are different business models in which people interact with e-commerce today. It's B2B, B2C, C2C. Irrespective of the business model, you will need to be on a digital channel. A little while ago, only direct channels were the option. As an example, your business website. However, today, the customers can buy from the channel that suits them better, especially the marketplaces. Instacart for groceries, Skip the Dishes for restaurants, marketplaces by Amazon, Facebook, and Best Buy are only some of the examples. In short, now you need to know where your customer is and be available on that channel to be able to serve them when they need it and however they need it. This increases the complexity around the entire e-commerce, especially when you consider providing a consistent experience across all channels and platforms that is personalized, connected, and end-to-end. Biggest challenge of today is that there is no one solution that can provide an end-to-end experience for a business. Further complicating this issue is that the consumers have low patience and the options available to them are so many. Success lies in orchestrating the right solution. Luckily, there are tools available in this space that can be adopted, customized, and integrated. I would like to emphasize that they have to be customized and integrated to create a perfect solution. One size doesn't fit all in e-commerce. A differentiated approach needs to be adopted depending upon if you are a large enterprise versus a small to medium. If orchestrated carefully, you can achieve cost effectiveness and your solution will be futuristic. Futuristic makes me think of future, which in my opinion is screenless. I would like to term it as the ambient, or the future is ambient. We need to get prepared for it. The move towards the ambient future has already started. Let's look around. So many of us start our day by saying, okay, Google, how's the weather today? Or, hey, Alexa, create my shopping list. IoT is penetrating our lifestyles rapidly, and soon a new business model, which is D2D. D stands for the device. So device to device interactions will start. As an example, your fridge will identify low levels of milk and auto order. Let me give you an example of a commercial transaction related to future of toll routes and smart and autonomous vehicles. Imagine you're going on Highway 401 in peak traffic time, and your car is getting its right of way negotiated, contracted, and settled with the cars in front using blockchain and associated technologies. The future will be very different. The digital channels of today have been developed for a user interface, and soon that will need to be redefined. You need to choose the right tech stack, a futuristic one that does not nullify the investments that you have made already or that you will be making soon. Your backend architecture needs to be able to scale and support the model that will soon be coming your way, the agility that will be required, and the speed at which it will need to operate. Brooke, can you help us understand how BDC approaches e-commerce?
Absolutely. And Hussein, you painted such an excellent picture that, in fact, one of my assistants started telling me the weather, which was great. And I have a morning routine with her. Now, you must be wondering, how do you go about upping your e-commerce game? So I want to get into, I'm going to say, the more practical side of things. Now, one of the very first things is you need to build an action plan. You need to involve your entire management team, plus any key employees who'd be able to contribute to your project. You want to keep them involved from the start to the finish to ensure they feel engaged and consulted. This in particular will help lower any resistance so that you're positioned for success. Next, you need to define your goals. Now, what do you want to achieve with this digital presence? In case you already have one, maybe you want to take it further. So what are your objectives? Do you want to acquire new clients? Do you want to retain your existing ones? Maybe you want to launch a new product or expand to a new market, and an online strategy can help you achieve all of that. What are your implementation steps? This is where you want to spend a lot of time. You want to be able to divide the responsibilities by appointing project leader who will be in charge of maybe the whole thing, maybe different sections. And that action plan, the more specific you can be, means that you can prioritize the efforts. You want to just have a few key deliverables at a time. So what are those timelines? What are the barriers? What might be the risks? That's a good place to be creative. And then how are they going to be mitigated? And finally, how much is it going to cost? Now that's an important one, so I'm going to come back to it. But finally, you need to update your plan regularly with your team. And we recommend that you do a review at least once a week of the project. And above all, don't forget to recognize successes and celebrate the wins, even the small ones. Now that you've decided you want to be present in the digital world and build your plan, you need to start doing some research to understand the online space in your industry. You need to understand your clients, your industry, what I'll call maybe your worthy competition, and any trends or challenges in the marketplace. Observing, understanding these market leaders and your direct competitors, these can really help you understand the best practices, some of which Hussein's already explained to us, because you can start to understand how your competitors are positioned. But the next step is you really need to understand your customers. And I can't stress this enough. Success comes from knowing your customers. Truly understand them inside and out. What are their expectations, their whims? Who are they in terms of age and interest and preference? Why do they want to buy online? What features do they want from a website? It's also important to understand exactly what motivates them to buy. Where and how do they source information? How do they evaluate those options? Who is that person that Hussein talked about that they want to share and find out, is this the right thing for me? Are they simply looking for savings? Are they looking to simplify their lives? Or are they shopping for pleasure? Because that's valid too. And what's popular in Montreal might not be interesting for people in Calgary, and vice versa. So even locality starts to play a role. This is why we suggest that you use what we call personas. It's a term used in marketing that are portraits of your ideal customers. And then once you create them using your own knowledge, you can add to that with research, the data you've already collected from your systems that you have in-house, and you can start to develop these characters that represent the customers you're trying to attract and retain. And when you know who you're selling to, you're able to better target your marketing efforts. Now, I want to talk about, you've done your research, You've understood your online sales in your industry. You know who you're selling to, and now you need to start building out your online sales capability. Now, Hussein touched on this already, but I want to give just a couple of practical tips. And this is for any type of website, whether it's transactional or not. You really do have an option to build a customized website. That's one of them, and that can take more time and be more expensive. The most important thing to remember is that your page designs should be clean. They should be focused with only the relevant content and functionality to help your customers complete their journey, which Hussein again did a great job explaining earlier. And now that you have your website, your next step is really to drive traffic. Now, when writing your content, you always want to consider search. Information should be short, efficient, and in many cases, that potential customer journey really does start with a search engine. We talked about that before. When they're looking for something, they're going to type in the name of a product or a service, and obviously you want your website to be near the top, if not in first place. So optimizing your website for search, that can allow you to appear in those top results, and you can do that in a few ways. Organic searches and paid searches represent the largest part of traffic for most companies. But on social media and email marketing, these are also very strong considerations. Now, the main difference between SEM and SEO is, and I'll just quickly explain this because not everyone's familiar. SEM stands for search engine marketing, and SEO stands for search engine optimization. And the difference between them is that one is a paid strategy, whereas the other, optimization, is more organic. So it happens on its own without a lot of action or promotion from you. Now, I'll give you kind of a fun example. Consider a funky pair of leggings that suddenly become really popular in high school. One person wears them and suddenly all the kids want one. In fact, I can think already of my friend who has a pair, and every time she wears them, I always ask her, okay, is that from the same place? I love them. Now, the manufacturer may not have paid for this fad. It happens organically. And we all want that. In fact, she posts regularly where she gets them from because that's the #1 question she gets asked. But then those fads can take maybe a little push from a paid strategy too. And this brings us to measurement and planning. The beauty of the online business is that you can very quickly see whether your actions are working or not. And you can use that data to find out what's working on your website, your social media, your email marketing programs. So you have to be diligent in tracking, but then you can also improve your results. Now, data really is that underlying piece to that because it also verifies the research that we talked about earlier, how well you know your customers' usage and attitudes and habits, how and what and why they buy. So whether it's in the DMs or on websites that use interactive tools to communicate with clients, people expect them and they do use them. So considering maybe a chat or a contact form, maybe even integrating with social media tools like Facebook Messenger. And finally, you need to build up your delivery and logistics capability. Hussein, again, painted a beautiful picture of what this looks like. And he specifically talked about how the customer tracks the shipping. You need to pay attention to these logistical details. So reliability, quick shipping, as well as easy returns. But I'm also going to say even sourcing the products for your inventory. So you may need to acquire or outsource capabilities or systems knowledge in fulfillment and inventory management. And don't forget that along with these processes, you need to train your people to make sure they understand the type of experience you want your client to have. Technology alone is not enough. And as you can see on this slide, it's very similar to the one we saw earlier, but having an online business is so much more than just creating a website. It's not a cool digital marketing strategy. It's an organizational initiative, which involves your brand, your processes, but most of all, your people. Using different channels in the right way at the right time to ensure a positive client experience at every single step along their purchase process and beyond means having the right processes and people in charge. Most people hear digital and they think technology. Technology is not enough. I'm going to say it again. It's the people and processes that make it happen. So implementing your digital strategy, like any change, requires you explain the advantages to your team. You have to train them. You have to give them the tools. You have to give them time to learn how to use the tools and involve them in the transition so that they're successful. Now, I want to come back quickly to costs. I'm a development banker, and so I know that there may be hidden costs when making any purchase. And so we've got an illustration here to show the total costs of an online project. And when we talk to entrepreneurs who want to start selling online, we ask a lot of questions, but it's because we want to understand the total cost of the project. This could be additional insurance, training, security, maintenance, not to mention the hit to your cash flow while you're taking time to bring the project into full service. And we know that diverse entrepreneurs tend to be more conservative when borrowing. So our advice is to develop a cash flow forecast for each individual project. Consider both the optimistic, not just the pessimistic one, and then truly borrow enough money to ensure you can cover the total cost of the project with contingencies, especially the working capital required to actually bring your project to completion. Now, this is a topic I am very passionate about, so I'm going to leave it there in the interest of time, but this is a conversation I am happy to have with you anytime. Now, I mentioned before stories, and I want to share one for you on how to put these tips into practice. This is a young entrepreneur who has seen rapid growth. Before the health crisis that hit the country last March, less than a third of BU Cosmetique sales were online. But the founder and CEO, Savannah Tardif, was already planning on changing things. Her company was founded in 2018 in Montreal, and she manufactures and sells skincare products. Now, with a strategy based on a personalized offer, she relaunched her website in the summer of 2019. And while the first site only sold body products, the new website allowed her to offer a broader range of products. Most notably, she added in a face care line. Her online sales really helped this company gain momentum, despite the fact that there was a slowdown in the in-store sales. At the beginning of fall, after the lockdown had been in place for several months, BU Cosmetique online sales represented 80% of the company's inventory turnover. They're also planning on using e-commerce to increase their sales outside of the geography of Montreal. Now, this is representative of how e-commerce was a driver for growth for many Canadian entrepreneurs during the coronavirus pandemic. Other SMEs learned that at least half their revenues from online sales before the pandemic, they were more than twice as likely to see their sales increase during the crisis. And yet we find that Canadian entrepreneurs are still slow to make the shift. And this is why I'm really grateful that we're having this conversation with all of you today. I have two tools I want to share with you to get started on your e-commerce strategy. Now, the first tool that I want to talk about is called the Digital Maturity Assessment. It's free, it's simple to use, it's available on our website, bdc.ca/digital assessment, and we'll make sure that gets added to the chat. The digital maturity measures how advanced a company is in terms of use of digital technologies, measuring both the digital intensity and also the culture. So the tool uses the same framework as our Digitize Now study to determine where your business fits into 4 different levels of digital maturity. It asks 19, I'd say, relatively simple questions about your business, your culture, how you interact with customers and partners, and then it compares your results to those in the same industry. At the end, you get identified into one of 4 profiles. So there's conservative, there's techno-shy, technocentric, and tech advanced. And you can see where your business stands. You can get either a short report, or you can actually ask for the long report in exchange for your email address. And that one includes recommendations, advice, and very importantly, the long report also includes that benchmarking I mentioned, so you can see where you're comparing to other businesses in your industry. Now, I have a sneaky feeling a couple of you may have already started it, and I truly hope that the rest of you do before you shut down your computer today. And our website, bdc.ca, has a variety of free advice for entrepreneurs, and that comes in the form of templates and articles and tools and ebooks and webinars and blogs. We also have numerous free e-courses, which 2 of my favorites, Marketing Fundamentals and Financial Fundamentals. I'll be honest and say there is so much information, it sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming. But we most recently launched a free guide on how to attract and sell online, and it walks you through how to build a successful brand online. So you'll also find out how to target both your customers and use the right techniques to help get those visitors to become paying customers. So we'll make sure that the link to that gets added in as well. And finally, for those of you who are not familiar with BDC, after all this time of me talking, I want to finish by giving you an overview of who we are. So BDC, we complement the role played by private sector financial institutions. We're profitable, operating at no cost to the Canadian taxpayer, and our sole shareholder is the Government of Canada. As a development bank, we go beyond financing to give entrepreneurs practical advice to help them run a better company, be more profitable as a business, because we know that entrepreneurs need more than money to succeed. So on the financing side, we offer cash flow loans, real estate financing, equipment loans to finance your growth or facility upgrade. And on the advice side, we have a full program to help entrepreneurs build out their growth and marketing strategy, as well as support for choosing which technologies to adapt. Now, we have also been looking at how to be a better customer for Canadian entrepreneurs. BDC's supplier diversity program ensures that our suppliers are as diverse as our clients. Businesses can now add their profiles to our online supplier database and give us more visibility to the full range of options that you offer. So as an organization, we're already seeing many benefits. We have improved innovation, the quality through access to suppliers that we may not otherwise have identified. And our supplier pool is more reflective of the fabric of country. And most importantly, we're providing opportunities to help businesses grow. So please visit bdc.ca, go to the I am a supplier section to add your profile, and we'll make sure that that gets added in the link as well. Oh, I have covered a lot. So, but Hussein, just before I pass it back to you and we head into the QA, I want to take just a quick moment to recap the key messages from today. Now, digital technologies are no longer just a trend or some distant perspective. The digital revolution is happening now, and entrepreneurs who are investing in digital technologies are those who are going to win and remain competitive. Even if some people believe that it's all about the technology, I really don't think that that's true. You have to be able to adapt your people, your culture, your processes, because without these, I will be bold and say the rest is irrelevant and it's a waste of investment. But the good news is it's not too late to take a step. A great way to start is to use the BDC Digital Maturity Assessment tool and see where you stand. And then you can start to work your ways towards improving your digital maturity profile. And unless you've done this before, don't try going this alone. Get the help that you need and the advice to learn how it's done and gain valuable return without all that risk. So my challenge is to you is to commit to these 3 steps. First, I want you to think big. What is the first small step that you can take towards your goal? The second one, establish a culture of change. How will you make technology useful and fun for your team? Make sure you have support and align the technology with your processes and desires. And the third one, never stop improving. It's not a one-shot thing at all. This is an ongoing part of the life of your business. So you can adapt all the time and make sure that you continue to stay relevant. So never stop optimizing. It's the key to e-commerce and online marketing success. You take it one small step at a time, you monitor things carefully, and then you continuously optimize your efforts. Now, there's lots of ways to stay in touch with BDC online because we've done that migration ourselves. So I'll also drop my contact info in the chat. So Hussein, at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Brooke. The nice part of the last session, at least most of you with the virtual assistants know the weather at least. I love these maturity assessments, Brooke. The beauty of the technology maturity assessments is that they not only provide you where you are, but also build an ambition and a roadmap of where you need to be. Mobile Life has been operating in this domain for more than 10 years and has helped several of our clients in building their browse, buy, and self-serve experiences by perfecting their journeys, modernizing their processes, and incorporating and bringing in the necessary expertise for automation. We have worked with some of the iconic brands in the industry, ranging from telcos, tier 1 telcos, to Schedule A banks and OEMs. We are a certified CAMC supplier as well. We provide technology consulting in the areas of architecture, design, and personalization. We also do enterprise modernization through agile transformation, dev test ops incorporation, and custom development, thus orchestrating solutions that provide an end-to-end experience. We work on projects that create products which help you sit back and enjoy while the technology does the magic for your business. Hope you find this insightful. I'll be very happy to connect with you and answer any questions that you might have. And I'll hand it over back to Kamsi now.
Thank you, Brooke and Hussein, for your thought-provoking insights. We will now take questions from the audience. Please be reminded to send your questions through the chat feature. So while we wait on persons to gather thoughts, I'd like to ask Brooke, on the slide that you have on one of the 3 important aspects to look forward to in 2021, how do our small and medium-sized businesses equip themselves better with technology in this changing environment?
That's a great question. I'm actually so excited to have Malika here with us today. She is actually one of our experts at BDC on e-commerce. So I'm going to turn the floor over to her actually and let her speak on that one, because we've got her here with us and this is her area of expertise.
Malika, you're on mic. You need to take your mic.
Thanks, Scott. And Katrine, could you just repeat the question again for me, please? Because my audio is just kind of going in and out.
All right. So I wanted to know how our small and medium-sized businesses can equip themselves to better with technology in this changing environment that we're living in right now.
Are we talking for growth? There's a couple ways. Before, it's a big question that you're asking for a small and medium-sized business, because we call, and saying you can jump in on this one, but when small and medium-sized businesses are like coming out of this pandemic and looking for the reboot, as I call it, there's a lot of technology questions they have to solve. We call it the tech stack, and they all have different streams. So to answer your question, Katrine, I would ask back, are they looking to grow and implement technology in the sales and marketing realm? Because then we have to look at all of the, is it sales automation? Is it driving leads? There's a lot of questions that I dig into with our businesses before we start to go down that place. But that's sort of one stream that a small, medium business needs to think about from this technology infrastructure. Another area, I'm less versed in it, but know enough, is the operational technology. Right now we're having a lot of tools and ability to streamline, things as service for small, medium-sized business, CRM systems that help running your business a lot easier. So that's another area of technology that businesses are going to start to look at or ought to think about implementing. And then the last area are things like customer-facing technology, chatbots for your websites, CRM interfaces. How are you leveraging your customer data, gathering insights, et cetera, to facilitate a faster and smarter relationship with your customers. The downside of it can seem complicated for a small and medium-sized business to step into. The upside of it is that baby steps in, and there's a lot of tools out there. Brooke sort of mentioned some of them, but the great part of it is when you get yourself started down this path and kind of get over that initial hump, you actually are able to present yourself as a bigger business. So that's the one that I help clients with getting over it is once you can digitize or make that transformation for your smaller medium business, it's not as scary. It starts to facilitate things internally, externally, drive more business, and you just have a far bigger presence and reach that you would have than you would have before. Katrine, do you have anything more specific? I didn't want, it's a broad question, but I wanted to make sure I give you some concrete direction on that.
Right, because I get that completely. It would depend on the needs of the business, right? So my question would be posed more of a broad question, but I definitely understand where you're coming from, and thank you so much for the clarity.
add a couple of things in there. I think Brooke had earlier on mentioned in her presentation that put the customer at the center of all of this. So it's basically the customer experience that drives a lot of the outcome that you need to achieve. And basically the approach would be to map the customer journey and basically understand from that journey. There's not going to be any one size fits all. So based on the customer journey, the adoption of the tech stack, the adoption of the tooling, the adoption of the analytics that are going to be associated with it, it's cherry picking what is going to be the best fit for that specific outcome that is needed, and to optimize the experience that is going to be there. And that will create the cost effective and a better solution for them. There's a whole ecosystem of products that are out there. It's basically orchestrating them in the right sense would deliver the best results.
Thank you, Hussein. And I'll add on to your comment, Katrine, to kind of give you a concrete answer. I think what you're saying is, hey, I'm a small, medium business. I'm sold on this presentation. We've got to digitize. Where do I start? And so Hussein is giving one approach, which is usually our starting point. What is your customer experience? What is your business trying to drive in the next 1 to 3 years? Another way we look at it at the BDC is before we look at the customer piece, we also can look internally. Are there any gaps you need to close from a operating business? So that's a question as an entrepreneur, we ask them to take inventory of, or sometimes we need to help them in that thought process. And once we identify sort of where there's gaps or opportunities in the business, will point us to the right starting point for those technology investments and infrastructure. But usually, as Hussein said, it starts with the customer relationship, which drives sales, drives your interactions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have some comments here. One being, how does one start an e-commerce business when launching a new product?
That's I can take it, Hussein, what I usually go with my clients. So, you know, the e-com part of it is the last mile of the business. There's the real starting point, and I'm going to be biased and be a bit of Professor Malika here, as you saw in my bio, but you have to know who you want to talk to, why you want to talk to them, and why you're different. So before I can get into a conversation, or Hussein and I can give you a million tools and online technologies you can use for your e-com business, if you don't have those foundation questions answered first, who's your brand and what do you stand for? Then you know, because the e-com part of it and is the nuts and bolts. So if you're looking for specific tools and recos, you know, I would tell my clients the simplest way is something like a Shopify. Use a platform that's already there, or a marketplace. But before you get on there, you have to really take time to understand why your product's different, who you want to reach, and sort of what are those kind of foundation business plan goals. And then your next question is, how do I do, what are the operations, what's the logistics? And the simple answer I usually coach my clients when they're starting out is, use a platform or a marketplace that's already set up for that. Allows for trial and error, and it's a lot more straightforward than sort of building from scratch. Hussein, I don't know if you want to have a different thought on that.
Malika, you have absolutely nailed it. And basically, I would just add that you need to have the end-to-end approach. And in that end-to-end approach, as I mentioned to you, your clients are going to be like everywhere. They have the option to buy through marketplaces, through your website, through all the other channels that exist out there. And the million-dollar question is going to be, where are your customers? And understanding them will help you to identify where you need to start when you get into the e-commerce business, right? It starts from, does it start from browse, or there is buy that is incorporated in there, or it's basically, as Brooke had earlier said, search is where your customers would start. So basically, you need to understand the end-to-end and then approach it.
I'm going to drop a tip in the chat because I absolutely love that. There's a nice tool to start mapping out some of those thoughts, because we sometimes think of the business plan and ultimately it's mapping out part of your business plan. It can feel overwhelming to write out a whole one, but a business model canvas is a nice way to just capture those first thoughts as you start to jot them down. Creates a nice pattern. At a minimum, you can see which boxes are still empty, because then those are the ones you need to do some more research on. So I'll drop a link to an article on that in the chat as well.
So someone in the audience is running an engineering and safety consulting service business. So is there any advice you can give him?
I can offer some. I've worked with clients in this space before. And based on what I know of that type of business you're consulting, it's a one-to-one relationship. So where I've started helping with sort of that digital sales and marketing transformation with firms such as yourself, the two areas that we see the opportunity for them is kind of broadening their reach with their website. If you haven't already, updated your digital footprint, your LinkedIn, look at all of the pieces. What is your footprint? And the one thing, and I think Hussein, you'll agree with me, is you don't need to be everywhere. You said it, be where your clients and your audience is. So one thing that I like to make sure for small and medium, pick a few and do them well. So for something like an engineering and safety consulting service, your footprint would or ought to compromise for sure of your website, LinkedIn, and then any other networks or spaces trade associated for you. That would be a basic. We could look at a few others. So assuming your footprint is in good order, that you have a good brand personality and differentiator speaking out to you, speaking out to your audience from your website, now you're ready to drive some leads. So for what I've done for clients in your space is help set up some basic search and sales automation tools to make sure that they're maybe getting not the full converting lead, but just awareness leads or engagement, using LinkedIn, using blog posts, case studies to help prospects sort of cross that mental threshold that you're the type of firm they'd want to work with. And that way, when you have the chance to interact with them, the close is short. You're not repeating your whole story again. And then the other more tactical side of it, where I've worked with companies such as yourself, is once you have them as customers, because referrals and organic word of mouth is so important in your industry, is really making sure you're taking advantage of some of the CRM tools that are out there to be engaged and relevant with your audience and keep on connecting with them, measuring and monitoring that.
And just to add into that, there is also the piece of in your business, I'm sure there is a lot of interaction with the people. So optimizing your business as such, whereby it's basically converting a lot of things that are done through the humans into what the technology can do for you. We have worked in the past for one of our clients whereby it was against safety for the mining industry, and based on like the technology, the iris dilation and the facial features, one can understand if the person is safe to enter into the mining field or not. So it's basically using the technology to do the predictive analysis for you would help a lot of automation, bring a lot of automation in your business. So that is also another component that can be done.
Great point. Thank you. That's good add-on.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak a little bit more on the digital culture. What if, like, let's say a company doesn't have very tech-savvy employees? What can they do? Is there anything that Mobile Live, let's say, for instance, can help motivate these teams?
Sorry, can you please repeat your question?
All right, so let's say, for instance, we have a company, like let's say we want to build a digital culture, right? But the company does not have employees that are very tech-savvy. Is there anything that you have that can help motivate the teams?
Absolutely. We have a complete knowledge transfer and training package, whereby what we do is we try to come in with the coaches. We have, depending upon the different streams, whether it is agile coach, development coach, QA coach, or quality engineering coach, we bring those coaches in and try to lift up the organization by imparting the required knowledge to the people.
Right.
And I can jump in on that, because I talked a little bit about how BDC went through its own transformation, right? We went from in person in a branch where we would actually talk to you to being fully virtual. And so a lot of our, sort of twofold. There was At the back end, we were very fortunate from a head office perspective. A lot of investment was made to help bring us online, and that work had already started very fortunately beforehand. So we had various mobile applications that we were able to utilize while we were out at client sites. We'd much rather be at our client site than have them come to us. So we were already a little bit equipped for that. And we were then able to make that even more so. So I'm thinking of a couple examples where we were doing plant tours and literally with a cell phone, sort of going around and showing us what to do, making use of video camera footage, things that that we hadn't even considered in the past necessarily as options. And the other piece that was really important was the upskilling of staff. And so that was another place where there was a significant amount of, I'll use the word investment, but the investment more than anything was in time. And like Hussein said, in coaching. So it was having a few people who had put their hand up to say, this is an area that I feel I'm capable in, and I'd actually like to take a leadership role in this. And so being there to support their peers, to be able to be someone to say, okay, this is how I figured out how to do it. These are the tips that I've learned to save me time. Here's how I'm using the app. So having those few people in the company who really want this, and maybe as a career development option to be able to build out part of their personal development plan as well. These are sometimes ways to be able to fulfill that, make it more engaging for them, and balancing, of course, that that's not their full-time job. That's, something that's extra. But those are ways, as you continue to invest in the upskilling, it's the practice, giving them time to practice, a safe place to practice, and then peers who will help them if they're still struggling a little bit to get it. So those are a few of the tips that I've seen work really well. We've used some of those in BDC and also in other companies. I've seen them be very successful.
Thank you. So I think we don't have any further questions from our audience. So this should be the end of our session. And I'll just request that if the audience they do come up with any questions, if they can reach out to us directly. Vandana, can we get this screen with the, yeah. So you'll reach out to Vandana directly with any questions that you may have. And the recorded video will be uploaded to CAMC's YouTube channel by today. And we would ask that you check out our upcoming webinar on the 6th of July, which will focus on building an agile marketing strategy to drive revenue and growth. You can find more information on our website, CAMC, www.camc.ca, or you can reach out to Vandana as well. I would like to once again thank our webinar sponsors and panelists. Thank you very much for joining us today, and have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.